Hi, this is John and Noah. We are UrbanDigs, and welcome to Know Your Sector. This is a new segment we're doing where we're just taking short, quick dives into the many sectors that make Manhattan and New York City real estate totally unique. Noah, what do you think about this new thing we got going here?
Well, I'll tell you what I know, John. Is we have a lot of friends out there, a lot of great colleagues that are doing most of their business in certain sectors or certain neighborhoods of the market, and it's gotten to the point where I don't want to mix everything with Talking Manhattan. I mean, might as well start a new show and just focus on all these different agents that have something to say about these sectors. So I love it.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we talk about with data is that there are so many ways to slice and dice it based on the differences out there. So with that said, let's jump right into it. Today we're talking about the Upper Manhattan townhouse market. Our guest today is Robb. He's the president of Harlem Lofts. Been in business for about 30 years. Is that right, Rob?
22 in
22
Harlem.
years.
Yeah.
Okay, so but safe to
That's
say
enough.
safe to say you know this market cold.
Yes, that's all I do.
All right, well, let's get into it. Rob, when I look at closed sales for the Upper Manhattan townhouse sector over the last 3 months, I see about 19 sales, 2.8 medium price, 736 on the price per square foot, about 143 days to get into contract, and but most importantly, it's about a 12% discount from the last ask, and that's in the last 3 months. So the question I have right now is like Upper Manhattan townhouse sellers, how are you telling them? What are you telling them to move property these days?
Well, there's half the properties on the market at the same time last year. The discounts, I think that between the 2 and the 3 million range have discounted 40% of those sellers have discounted their properties,
Mm-hmm.
an average of 15%. So if you want to sell it down, you have to sell it down. I would probably go in and recommend to the seller that you shave 15% off of last year's price and go in and most importantly, um, I wouldn't have said this 3 weeks ago, but get your property on the market now. And the reason I would get it on now is because you have 64 on the market where normally you have 95. So there's less competition. 10 came on within the last week. Also, the days on market, I believe it's still suspended by Zillow and Streeties, at least in Manhattan it is. So days on market, if your property is not going to get stale, you might as well test it right now with less competition.
Right.
And that makes sense because Rob, I guess we're closer to the end of this thing than the beginning, and we're already talking about reopenings. Um, could you just explain why? I mean, the townhouse sector is such a mystery. Really quick, um, what's the most interesting data point in this sector? Like, what piques your interest as something to follow and track?
I mean, right now we track it daily, and right now what's interesting is sales volume's down. Sales numbers are down 50% from last year. Sales volume is down 45% in the townhouse market, which tells you that the price for the property, the average price is actually higher than it was in 2019. So we were coming out in December and January, February, we were coming out with higher prices and the market was recovering.
Right.
And what's interesting to me is the fewer townhouses have sold with a higher average price than last year. Even now, this was as of last Friday.
Right. Interesting stuff. So let me ask you, Rob, Noah mentioned that the townhouse sector is kind of a mystery. A lot of agents in Manhattan do business south of 96th Street, a lot of Upper West Side, a lot of Upper East Side, Midtown kind of stuff. What are some of the three things that an agent's got to know if they want to do business uptown, especially in that townhouse sector?
Well, the townhouse sector itself, I moved right after 2001. So after 9/11, I bought a townhouse. It came from a high rise. I can tell you the interesting thing that I'm seeing now is people are looking for space. People are looking for roof space. They're looking for backyard space. They're looking for private space. They're not looking to share an elevator with 600 people. So the townhouse market overall, I think, is going to see a spike compared to the rest of the market just for those reasons. And then Harlem itself is, I call it big sky country. I mean, there's so much light in the air, and I do a roof deck on every house that we've ever renovated. So I think living in a townhouse in Upper Manhattan is going to be sought after for office space, outdoor space, private space, and still in Manhattan.
I mean, it's got attractive pricing. Hey, Robert, you're in good company. Howard Lorber was on a webinar a while ago, and he mentioned the exact same thing. And he said there's going to be, at some point, there's going to be a comeuppance of the townhouse market and the multifamily market because of the reasons that you said. I mean, obviously, we're in the neck of the dislocation right now. So he was talking about down the road. But I just want to ask you. when I look at townhouses, I get confused. I mean, you got FAR, you got the depths, you got the widths. Could you just give me a sense, like what is the normal depths and widths of buildings and product in Harlem? And when it comes to FAR, could you just give me a quick rundown on what that is and why it's important?
Well, I try to focus on historic districts and whenever I can, so the FAR gets crippled a little bit, but FAR is your field area or floor area ratio. So you take that and multiply it by the zoning number, 3.49 for residential, and you come up with the maximum square footage you can build. Most of these houses have at least 2,000 left to build because they changed the zoning through the years. If it's in the landmark district, you got to be careful because just because DOT says you can build it, you have light and air issues and landmark issues. Yeah. But the FAR on some of the areas that aren't landmarked, you see people take down 2 buildings and put up 12, I sold one, 12 or 14 condos. So the FAR is important, but be careful in the historic districts if that's what you're looking to do.
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, most of the people don't rebuild or add on, right? I mean, it's just like something that's kind of there. Right.
I'm a developer, I'm a contractor, and I've not right now, but I've added on to every one that I've done. The roof space, yeah, you have to do the roof space. Gotcha. Penthouse rule, and yeah, it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. And in terms of depths, I'm sorry, with the product, is it 18 footers, 20 footers? I mean, I know you got Strivers Row, you got some areas there that's gorgeous.
Well, the largest is 25. The most sought after is 20. There's not a lot of 25s, but the depths go from 40 to 69. I know one that's 79, but typically 40 to 52 is going to be your depth. 59 on some of the 20 footers on 119th Street. But most people are after the 20 footers. They're few and far between. 18 footers are good for 4 families. Anything smaller than that's going to not be good.
Excellent. This is beautiful. I love this stuff. And let me ask you one more question. Is there a couple of streets or areas in Upper Manhattan that you just think are just beautiful, gorgeous areas that are just showing some decent deals right now? Mostly the areas that you like.
For me, I stick to historic districts. So, we have a couple of new ones that, the extension of Mount Morris Park happened in 2015. And then right after that, the 131st and 132nd Street historic district, and Sugar Hill added on the Hamilton Heights. I start just like if you go to Washington, D.C., you start at, Adams Morgan or one of the historic districts and go out from there. Mm-hmm. A lot of the developers try to buy right on the fringe of the historic districts. Because they benefit from the inventory of the historic district, but they don't have the rules to follow. So I think if you focus on historic districts, you're going to be okay.
Gotcha.
That's interesting. So Rob, if I could just shift gears right now, one of the things you talked about earlier is, before we kind of got on, you mentioned how to look for a deal, how to make a deal. And if you could just kind of sum up right now what's happening with negotiations and how to put your best foot forward as a buyer and, get a deal done. What are your thoughts on that?
So I used to only represent buyers until around 2011, and we switched. Our firm primarily represents sellers. So if I'm representing a client and someone wants to get a deal, this is the time to get a deal. 40% of the people that have between 2 and 3 million have discounted their properties right now. So it is the time to get a deal. But if I'm a buyer or a buyer agent comes to me, get rid of the contingencies, get rid of all the inspections, do that, and then put the offer in front of me. Get rid of the mortgage contingency so that I can go to my seller who needs to sell, if that's the case, and say, look, you're going to cross the finish line with this. Once they sign the paper, they've got a deposit at risk, and we're going to move forward. And that way, that seller can mentally check out, because if they have to sell, they probably want to mentally check out. And that's when I would recommend to my seller to take a price less than market value.
That's great. So if the seller can visualize that finish line, then you're gold, basically.
That's right. And a lot of the people have negotiated with me on these, and they know that's where I go. Get rid of those contingencies.
There you go. All right. Well, Rob, thank you very much for your time today. We're sort of running out on time. Robb Hare, president of Harlem Lofts. And any questions, send them to Rob, send them to Noah and I. But on behalf of UrbanDigs, this is John and Noah, and we will see you next time.
Thanks,
Thank you, Rob.
Stay